Well, the airstrikes by Iran and Israel have continued for a sixth day now, with speculation increasing on how the US might get involved. Middle East correspondent Allyson Horn is in Tel Aviv and joins us now. Allyson, does the US appear to be getting more openly involved in this conflict?
Well, the rhetoric from the United States President Donald Trump certainly suggests that there are discussions taking place to move towards US involvement. So far, the United States has denied that it's been involved in any airstrikes or any military capability-wise. But there is, I guess, at least a tacit understanding that the start of this conflict with Israel launching airstrikes into Iran had some sort of US backing. And now, given what we're seeing on social media from Donald Trump, the US president, it appears that they may be considering the next steps, because so far, from all the warnings that the US president has tried to issue towards Tehran, this fight is continuing to escalate between both Israel and Iran. So any attempts to try to reach a diplomatic solution have failed so far, even though we did hear just yesterday that Iran had asked for some of the Gulf states around here, some of the Arab states, to work as mediators on their behalf to try to approach the US president, asking him to put pressure on the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to reach a ceasefire deal. In exchange, Iran said it would reconsider its nuclear program. That sort of a diplomatic approach and resolution doesn't seem to have taken hold. It doesn't seem to have advanced any further from what we have been told. So I think there would be serious discussions happening behind the scenes now about the possibility of US involvement.
And what do you think is being discussed? What next steps do you think Donald Trump is weighing up right now?
Well, he has historically criticised other US presidents for what he says was dragging the United States into wars that wasn't theirs to fight. He has always labelled himself as a president that would be keeping the US out of fights like this. So for him to now weigh into something like this and be considering sending US troops on the ground perhaps, or US military assets, into putting them into place, that's a serious change in his position that he's had over the last year or so. He'd also be considering what this would mean not just for the Middle East, but the wider world. While Israel has its strong allies in the United States, Iran has its strong allies too, Russia and China, for example, which possibly may be ready to hop into action to support Iran should the United States get involved. And that could really lead to a massive widening of this conflict, not just turning it into a Middle East war, but a broader war across this part of the world. Something that would also be considered is whether or not to go after the leader in Iran, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. We did see from Donald Trump in those social media posts, he was boasting that the United States knew the location of Ali Khamenei and saying that the United States wasn't going to go and kill him and assassinate him just yet, but that was an option on the table if Iran didn't, in the US president's words, surrender. Now, considering that behind the scenes, I'm sure that they would be wondering whether or not that would be a smart strategic move, because so far until this point, Ali Khamenei has proven that he has kept a pretty traditional route of what would have been expected in terms of retaliation against Israel, sending ballistic missiles, but nothing further than that. And it should be noted that the ballistic missiles aren't a small step, it's an incredibly serious step. But taking out Ali Khamenei may leave a vacuum for an even more military-hungry dictator or a leader to step in there, that might provide a huge level of that couldn't be predicted as to what might happen next. So they would be considerations that are taking place at the moment, but certainly the rhetoric from the US president seems to suggest that they are gearing up for perhaps some sort of involvement.
And Allyson, can you bring us up to date on what have been the latest targets as Israel and Iran continue to launch strikes on each other?
Yeah, so Israel says it's continuing to hit weapons facilities and nuclear scientists and military commanders there. But what we have also seen over the last few days is an increase in Israel's attempts to try to target and locate Iran's weapons stockpiles and also its rocket launches, because Israel believes if it can target and destroy those rocket launches, Iran won't be able to fire those ballistic missiles into Israel. They mightn't be able, Israel mightn't be able to actually destroy the ballistic missiles, but if Iran doesn't have the capability to launch them, then it greatly diminishes the threat to Israel. And I will say that here locally in Tel Aviv, we have been seeing a slight decrease in the number of rockets that have been sent in waves from Iran. At the start of the war, at the start of the conflict, for example, we'd been seeing about 100 rockets coming in waves per night. We're seeing now about 20 to 30 missiles in each wave. That could be because Israel has managed to destroy a large number of those launch pads. It also could mean, though, that Iran is just now stockpiling its weapons, anticipating US involvement. Here in Israel, we have seen continued volleys of ballistic missiles being fired across both the north and where I am around Tel Aviv, the central areas, because, as what I just mentioned, those numbers of volleys are those numbers of rockets in those volleys are much smaller than the last few days. The aerial defence capabilities in Israel have managed to intercept most of those rockets, so we're not really seeing as many impacts here in Israel as we have in previous days. But the Iranian regime is saying that what has been seen and what has been retaliated upon Israel over the last few days is just a warm-up, signalling from their perspective that they expect this fighting to increase.
Allyson Horn, thank you for updating us from Tel Aviv there.